It's time for the Chapter and Chatter Cafe with Camden County Library District Director, Professor Jim Pasley.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Chapter and Chatter. We've got an interesting topic today.
We do have an interesting
topic.
topic.
We've got a great audience here, and we've been talking already about AI, okay? And one of the members here said, well, I think I've got a bottle of that in the refrigerator. It says AI on the bottle, or A1 kind of, you know. So I'm the same way. I've talked to it several times. I get nothing out of it, you know.
I'm not going to.
Yeah, so this is going to be fun.
Those 3 o'clock cravings are.
That's right. It's
not
been
the best time to get up and
kind of
touch
fun
the
in the fact that, you know, I'm old school, and here's our new school, if you will.
Well, how about we call middle school, because the new school is a lot younger, and they have a lot more tricks up their sleeves.
And then behind the scenes, we have our producer here, Mark, and he's our IT guy. So, you know, we hired a fellow here during the summer months to help us. And, you know, when we interviewed the fellow, there was a discussion between Mark and this young man. And I was like sitting in a room with 2 people speaking Greek. I just finally got up and walked out of the room. I thought, I can add nothing to this, you know. And so, you know, it's gonna be kind of fun to pursue a little bit of this. And I thought we'd start out, being the history professor, we'd talk a little history and talk about AI and its impact. I mean, we're seeing it everywhere today, and I'm inundated with people trying to sell us stuff all the time for the library, and a lot of times I have to grab it in my hand and carry it in and say, what is this, you know? And they
once in a while.
They do a pretty good job of explaining it, but even after they do, I think it can do that, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the story of the technological progress. Now, what kills me about it is I've lived through a generation where every newfangled invention comes along and they say, this is going to make things so much better, right? And the other part of it is it's not going to replace anybody's job.
Right? You have lived through that one, yes.
Yes, I've lived through it several times. You know, it does what? You know, years and years ago, I started out working in construction, and I was surveying. You know, we literally drug what they called a chain. It was a 100-foot chain.
Yep.
And we had things called plumb bobs, and you had to get the chain level, and you up and down through the hills in the wilderness. The other day,
I learned how to use it in my landscaping class.
The other day, there's a guy comes out here and he's surveying the lot. He's got a stick with a little thing on top of it. And I walked out there. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm surveying." You know, and he walked over here, did that, and he did that, and he said, "I'm done." And I'm like, "What?" Yeah, it's all tied to satellites. You know, I'm thinking, "Oh man, where was that when I needed it?" Right? You know, so. Again, we keep getting reassured that it's not going to replace jobs and it's going to be all this great stuff, okay? Now, here's the problem I have with AI. I'll come right out and say I got some problems.
Don't hold back.
I have some problems with it. It's not merely an extension of human physical capabilities. Like I say, it's great that you can walk around with a stick instead of dragging a chain and cutting trees to do a survey. But it is an encroachment on our thinking capabilities. It thinks. It
does, but you have to give it the prompts. Depends on how good your prompts are or what the return results are going to be. Pretty much garbage in, garbage out. Depending on how well you prompt that AI service is how well you're going to get a return result. And it could make you still look not very smart.
But the scary thing is that they keep telling us that this thing is getting to the point where it can teach itself. It doesn't need a prompt. It will just simply figure it out.
Well, I don't know if it's so much that it doesn't need a prompt or that it's kind of how do I want to explain this? And I may have to have Mark help me out here.
Here you go. Here's a crayon.
I don't have a whiteboard.
Yeah.
It in a sense, it is going to teach itself because there is so much stuff that is being added to its servers and capabilities.
Right.
So it's learning the new stuff that is being fed to it. Am I kind of on the right track, Mark? Yeah. So, see.
Okay. Whatever you think
I do
there,
think
Sporty.
that it could probably learn on its own, but it's got to have something fed to it.
All right. Well, let's step back a little bit.
I'll let you.
Let me go.
I'll let you go.
All right, here we go. All right.
All right.
So, the Industrial Revolution. Let's start out with the original counter arguments.
So we're going back to Eli Whitney and.
Yes.
Okay.
The Industrial Revolution.
All right.
Okay. Now it started with textile workers. All right.
Right.
These textile workers, they started out there making cloth, with a loom. They're feeding, a needle through here and they pull this big deal and everything. Okay. Well, all of a sudden, here they come up with this brilliant idea of automating these looms. All right. Steam powered, but all of a sudden you got a machine that can do the work of 50 people in a day's time. All right. Well,
right.
And of course, they're telling you, don't worry.
You're not going to lose your job.
You're not going to lose your job. Ha! Wrong again. Off they went, right? So, all of a sudden, people are like, I'm not real sure I like this whole industrial thing, right?
Right.
And needless to say, the looms, all of a sudden you have things like the cotton gin, and you have steam engines, and it just spiraled out from there, all right? And they were telling them at the time, don't worry, technology will not replace anybody's job. It's nothing to fear here, right? Okay. Well, then lo and behold, what we see happen is that these individual weavers lost their jobs, but all of a sudden now you're going to have more managers and clerks, and it shifts the workforce to more cognitive jobs, if you will. So you had to learn how to manage a business and had to learn how to do sales and these sort of things. All of a sudden it's no longer just sitting there doing menial tasks.
Right.
Now, the introduction of the automobile. This is where we see things go into a death spiral, all right? Because at the time we had people with horses and buggies, right? And they're getting around just fine. All you need is a little grass to feed the horse.
You know what's funny is when we started first talking about this and you sent this to me, I actually found a meme on Facebook, and it talked about how before everybody had a horse and buggy, and only the rich had automobiles. Now it's everybody has an automobile and only the rich have a horse.
Good point.
But it's definitely how
Isn't that unbelievable?
Flip-flop.
Yeah.
So
well, when we had horse and buggies, now you also had blacksmiths, you had stable hands, you had all the things that went with building wagons, all that sort of thing.
Right.
All those people are going to lose their jobs because of these.
It becomes a more specialized
machines.
industry.
Yes, and I was telling Coli before the show, I had a great uncle who had the first car in Moberly, Missouri, and it was a Cadillac of all things. Of course, it isn't a Cadillac like we see today, but he had this thing, and he owned the John P. Booth Plumbing Company, but he's the only guy in town who had enough money to buy one of these newfangled machines, so he bought it and drove it to work, and of course everybody's raising hell with him because it's making noise and going down Main Street and all of this. And he pulls it up front, and across the street is the livery stable, and all the good old boys are over there. They're raising hell with him, saying, oh my God, I can't believe you bought this thing. And the town council even met and talked about telling him he had to get rid of it. They hated it that much. And so sure enough, after about 2 months, everybody in town hating him for having this thing, he turned around and gave it away. Gave it to 2 farm kids and said, you can have it, but you can never drive it into town. You can just drive it around your farm. So the first car in Moberly, he gave it up and gave it to 2 farm kids. I wish I had that car today.
Oh, yes.
But,
we did talk about that as well.
It's so indicative of what happened there with technology. And look where we are today. But nope, not going to happen, all right? So that, right off the bat, the car coming along, next thing you know, automobile manufacturing becomes huge. Other jobs did come about. Gas station attendants. Every high school kid in my generation worked at a gas station. You had road construction crews. You had just all kind, car repair, you name it. There were all sorts of industries that sprang forth from it. So yes, there were other jobs that came about as a result of that technology.
Right.
All right?
Right.
but there were people who lost their jobs. They're not shoeing horses anymore.
And again, like I said, that becomes a more specialized field.
Yes, exactly.
Because
so, good and bad, right? Well, then along comes this glowing thing they set on our desks, right? This they called it a computer. Now, I can remember, I am that old, when they came out with these computers. Now, I had a state job where you literally had carbon paper. We were talking about this with the audience. You had to have copies. You know, I had to have a copy for you and one for Mark and one for Vicki. And so they would take, and the paper that you had carbon paper in it. And when you fill out your report and pressed really hard, it went through to the other copies. And when you got done, you snapped it apart and it made 4 copies and you could hand them out. That's technology for you.
That's
right?
technology for you.
Well, here they come with this computer thing. A paperless society, right? You all been there, right? Let me ask you, did it create a paperless society? No.
I think it created more.
Yes. Now you just
print
hit
it
a
out to
button.
have it.
You hit a button and it's make 12 copies.
That's right.
Wait a minute, I thought this was supposed to be paperless. No, wrong again, right? So again, I'm wondering about the technology advancing us here, all right? Now you can see she and I have some interesting discussions at work, all right? Now, needless to say, the computers created all kinds of clerical roles, explosion of software development, IT people, like Mark sitting in here, right? Data entry, digital content creation jobs and stuff, and even that technology has changed so much.
Well, even, I think even when we were discussing doing this, you know, even you, Mark, and I had the conversation. You know, I remember as a kid, the first time we had a computer in the house was in 92, 93, somewhere right in there. So I was 11, 12 years old the first time a computer had entered our house.
Right.
And the only reason the computer entered the house is because my mom was going back to school after my parents' divorce. So she had to have the computer to do the schoolwork. But otherwise, we didn't touch it. And it was a word processor. It was a glorified word processor is what it was, because it had Windows. It wouldn't have been 95, but it had 3.1 is 3.1 or 3.0 or whatever it was. And you just had the word processor in it, you know, had Paint. That was the greatest thing when I was a kid, was Paint.
See?
But other than that, it didn't get used. And I think it had an spreadsheet program on there because she was going back to school to become a bookkeeper. But other than that, it was a box that sat in a corner that came on every once in a while. It wasn't something that we had to have on all the time.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
you know, that's kind of like one of the things we talked about, you know, when did it first enter into our lives?
Yeah.
So I was still, you know, in the realm of things, in the way that things have progressed digitally so far, you know, I was still fairly old when it came into our life, so.
There you go. Well, and like I say, I was working for the state at the time.
Right.
And God help you, you know, low bidder, that's what we got. You know, we use things called Lotus Notice.
I remember that.
Oh my God. Created by some sadistic
Lotus
fellow
1, 2,
of some
3?
sort, you know.
Maybe it was Lotus 1, 2, 3.
Oh, but this is technology. It's going to work so much better, guys. Stick with us. Okay. So now all these new jobs emerge because of this computer age, right? And along with that, you have to have a supervisor over the IT people, right? And so now you get a whole administrative staff, and you have creative people, and you have high-tech people, and you have to have all kinds of you know, human ingenuity as to how to even make it run faster and make it be better, all right? And so there's still a cognitive part of it. You know, when you make a great example, you had this little box sat in the corner.
That's what it did.
And now the thing sitting in your pocket will do
everything and beyond.
More technology in that than when we sent a spacecraft to the moon, right?
Did we really?
Yeah, well, here we go again. I don't know, ask AI, right? And so here you are, you know, you're sitting there and being inundated with all of this information, okay? And we have people that have jobs that are creating all sorts of different offshoots of the use of this thing, just like the people that had the loom originally. all of a sudden, you know, one thing leads to the next, and steam engines and steam locomotives and steam boats, and same sort of thing happened with the computers, all right?
But could you imagine, I'm just going to throw this in
Yeah.
here real quick. Could you imagine if Ada Lovelace and Charles Babbage in the 1800s, they had the knowledge to create this technology then, where we would be at now?
Good point.
Yeah. I mean, how far more advanced would we be if they would have had the tools that they needed?
Da Vinci.
Well, even Da Vinci.
Yeah.
I mean, so that was what?
Yeah. Gazillion.
Gazillion, right. I mean, if everybody had the tools and the supplies that they needed then, how technologically advanced we would be.
Would we be here?
Well,
That's the question.
Again, that goes back to our conversation.
Would our
the other day.
audience
Would we
have
be
all
up in
just
space being
come in
pushing
here on
buttons?
little robotic legs, and there'd been two talking heads sitting here talking about this?
But
There's the issue. See? I'm telling you, I've got a lot of work in front of me with these people, right? Now, here's the thing. Crucially, we were always dependent on human brain power for the initial design, for the ongoing maintenance, and the advancement of all of these different things.
Right.
Because, again, it took somebody to think of it and make it happen. Here's the big problem we have with AI. AI thinks. It's not running the loom. It's not replacing somebody's hands doing something. This AI stuff has the capability of literally sitting there, give it all the data, and say, what's a better way, what's a good cure for cancer? And it'll research everything over the planet, put it all together, and say, these are the 3 best things.
But
think about that.
Well, okay, again, it's
How long would it take you to do that?
Well, I
Research
don't-
everything on the planet.
I'm not a doctor. I haven't gone to school
You're
for
not
7 years.
AI either.
I'm not either. But, again, it comes down to how much information has been fed to that chatbot.
Well,
And who's feeding it that information?
this is the scary part about it. Because I know some people, who know some people,
Do you now? That's almost scary.
who work with DARPA. And basically, their big push right off the bat was they said before they could get the computers to do anything, they had to teach them how to read. And they had to be able to read everything, read every language that's ever been invented, everything that's ever been written, but the computer didn't know how to do that. So their first step was to teach computers how to read. Well, they did it. And then they stepped back and said, have at it, start reading. Now you can imagine that would be like, here's a library right here in front of us. Go ahead and tell me everything that's in here. Start reading it. Read it all. And this thing, just like lickety-split, reads everything in the library. Now that's all in there. All right? Now it's reading Sanskrit from thousands of years ago. It's reading every language you can possibly imagine, every writing that's ever been put down, every sketch that's ever been drawn by Leonardo da Vinci. It has it all in there. And then you come back and you ask it, what would be the best way to build a flying car? And it has all of that information, scans all of it, finds everything it needs, and puts it together and says, ta-da.
But how accurate is it?
Well, I don't know. Are you smart enough to question it?
I'm just saying. That's one of the things with AI is you can give it all that information. Okay, prime example.
So it got it itself.
When in my recent classes for my graduate studies, we were allowed. The professor asked us to go to ChatGPT, Copilot, one of those AI sources. Ask it to give us a 2-paragraph paper basically on a topic that we were looking for, and then to cite its sources. We had to go then back and make sure that those sources were true and that it did it correctly. I can tell you that the prompt that I gave it, it sounded good. The sources looked credible because it kind of mishmashed some of them together. But when you come down to it and have to look those up, they weren't anything real. So again, even though you're asking this and it can give you an answer, how do you know that it's correct? So just like the cancer example, and we were talking about that earlier, and you said it could come from some Tibetan scroll. Just because it said it, does that make it true? Does it make it that that is the best? Or is it just pulling something because it said, hey, look, this one said it was the best?
I love it. We could probably end the show right here because I've convinced her. You have to have a human make the decision.
You have to have the human to make the decisions. You can have all this AI stuff, but you have to have the human component.
But there, you've led this perfectly where we want to go. Because now the problem is, think about it, kids in school and everything. Now, you know, people now, well, I saw it on the internet, it's got to be true, right? And that's the problem, is they're leading us down this path to say, well, you don't need to know that. Just pull your phone out and look it up.
Well, and see, that's where
there is the crux of it.
See, that's where the conversation, we've even had it here, is even just among staff. Why do we need to have reference materials here when I have it in my hand? You can look things up on Google even before AI. You could look it up on Google. You could look it up on any whatever browser that you want to use, and it will return results. But until you come in here and you actually do the research and compare what you've read online, it's not going to do you any good because you're just...
The other thing it's missing is the human experience.
It is missing the human experience.
When you're as old as I am, I've made some pretty stupid decisions in my life.
We all have.
And, you know, that computer, it doesn't care. You know, it's like, well, okay, that didn't work. Next, you know. It's not sitting down there trying to, you know, count out change for crackers with your deer chili. You know, I mean, it's a whole different ballgame, right?
It's using cryptocurrency.
Yes, exactly. So, needless to say, it gets down to this whole thing of the decision, the cognitive part of it. You know, are we going to become so dependent on it that all of a sudden everybody says, well, I don't need to know it because AI can do it for me. That's going to be
the crux of it. And that's going to have to come from, I mean, again, look at the generations that we have here, okay? By far, Mark and I are not the youngest generation. There are still younger people than us.
I hate to break it to you.
And it's all going to come down to how well they are taught. It's going to come down to, you know, how well they're taught to think for themselves and to conduct that research. You know, that's one of the things, again, like I said, that keeps going back to, do we need a reference? Do we need nonfiction here? Yes, we do. That's what
I'll tell you what, in the 3rd grade with Sister Gertrude Marie, I guarantee you, you know, if she'd have been all over me about my lessons like she was, and I had something in my pocket I could pull out and get the answers from, it wouldn't take this 3rd grader very long to say, I don't need Sister Gertrude Marie anymore, and I don't need to learn this stuff.
And see, that's the thing. That is the thing. I remember being in junior high and high school. You had a textbook, you had an assignment, you had to read the assignment, you had questions at the end of the textbook chapter that you had to answer. You had to do that critical thinking. My kids are 19 and 22. Did they ever come home with one piece of homework? I take that back. The last time I saw homework was when they were in 5th grade. You know they stopped spelling tests about 4th grade?
Wow.
My son, I asked him in 5th grade, I said, where's your spelling test? Where's your spelling words?
Don't need
spelling words, we don't even do that. I'm like, oh,
the computer will correct it for you.
All right, so we know how to use a dictionary and all that. So, okay.
Yeah, that's why you get people submitting things that have there and there spelled differently.
Spelled wrong, right.
Where and were, that sort of thing.
But that, again, it's all going to come down to
teaching.
There
you go, which will be done by an AI computer.
Max Headroom's going to be teaching the classroom.
Right. So here we are. The historical pattern, basically, doesn't hold true for artificial intelligence in that it advances things that will make life easier for us and we don't have as much hard labor. Artificial intelligence, like I say, it doesn't have to mimic a weaver's hands. It doesn't have to imitate a mechanic replacing a fuel pump. Basically, this thing is a thinking critter.
Right.
And there's the big difference. This is a thinking monster, all right? Now, consider the implications. The huge field of customer service, all right? Yes. You know, and you've all done it, you know. You call because you got a problem with an appliance, and they say, hello, my name is Bob. No, it's not Bob. It's some guy in India, all right? Yeah, and then you answer 1,000 questions. That's after you've hit press 1 for English, press 2 if you want it, you know your person's extension, on and on and on. Well, that's all AI. That's all, you know, part of it, okay? Now, these AI systems, when you think about it, those things, you know, there's a reason why a guy in India is answering your questions about your appliance from Sears.
I do have a quick story about that. We had an LG washer.
Yeah?
And you were supposed to be able to hit the button when you had customer service on the phone. It would play a tone, and they should be able to tell by the tone that it played what was wrong with that washer.
Oh my God. No.
No. They're like, what's wrong with it? I'm like, it won't run. I played the tone. What's wrong with it?
Yes.
And they're like, we have no idea.
Right. Yeah, see? So
Glad I paid for that.
Yeah. Wrong tone.
Right?
Well, and see, think about this. The AI in this, the beauty of it is that it can literally handle thousands of inquiries at the same time.
Right.
Worldwide, these things come in to some center somewhere where Bob is sitting, right? And it learns from each interaction, okay? It learns something from you. We obviously didn't hear the tone, so that's something we need to look at, okay? But it also operates 24/7. It doesn't need any breaks. It doesn't need any days off or vacation.
Uh-oh, Mark, we're in trouble now.
Yes. It doesn't complain about its pay. It doesn't have, you know, well, this AI got 10 minutes more break than this one did, right? And so you can see why some of these businesses are saying, hey, that's a pretty good deal, right? And so we shift in that direction without thinking about the overall implications. Now, in the legal profession, this one blew my mind. AI can, like I say, it's read everything. Well, you know, we have all these people work in law offices that have to do all the research for a case and put everything together, past law, past cases, what's been ruled. This thing, boom, here they are.
Again,
Yeah.
is it accurate? Just because it has it.
I don't know. I'm getting $140 an hour. Give me something, dude. Right? You know how this works. And there's the problem again. Do you have somebody behind the scenes that's reviewing it and thinking, I don't know about this?
Okay, so just like on the legal side of it, I was telling you earlier that I'd found on WebJunction, which is a library type organization. They put together webinars and things like that for librarians. So they had a 3-part series starting in April on AI. And one of the things that they said that AI can do is be a writing partner for grants. Again, it all comes down to the prompts. And this is directly from WebJunction itself, and it says, while AI is not going to write an entire proposal, it shouldn't write an entire proposal, that's me, it can help you get started. For example, you can ask an AI tool for 10 different project justification statements for the grant, and then ask it to rank the answers in terms of how compelling they are. The more context you can give in your AI prompts, the better the response. As the grant writer, you can improve on the AI output because you bring deep knowledge of the organization, and you can add emotional resonance and polish to the content. So again, it's what you put into it is what you get out.
So you used it,
I have
and
used
you
it.
got the grant.
Right.
All right. Now it knows this works. So the next guy that needs the grant says, give me the ones that worked. And there it is. And he didn't have to do diddly squat. You're the one that had to do the work. What I'm saying is,
I don't know if it'd work quite that way,
as
though,
it advances,
because you didn't actually feed it the grant. You didn't take the PDF of the grant and feed it to it and say, here, write this. You did all the work. You haven't put it out there.
but the machine is learning what worked.
It doesn't know what worked. It just gave you prompts.
I rest my case. So basically what happens is that it's awful tempting to say, yeah, let's do this. It was tempting for my great uncle to get that car. You know,
Obviously.
I don't have to take care of this damn horse, right? And it was, it's tempting for us to have, a computer or a cell phone. And so we did it. We didn't turn around, when all this stuff came out, we were like, cool, air conditioning? Woohoo!
That's beautiful.
That's just a passing fad, right? I got an attic fan. It'll work just fine. Well, look at us. We're all dependent on it now. If it goes out, look at all of us. We're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? The sky's falling. We'll burst into flames if we don't have the air conditioner running.
There was times close.
I don't know how we survived to get to where we're at today, right? Now, the other issue is this content creation. Now, it used to be strictly the refuge of human creativity. Now it's under threat. AI models can generate articles, make copy, sign or write grants, do even basic code, all right?
It does. Actually, it will. I'm not going to lie. I will admit that I have used ChatGPT to help me write some HTML code.
There you go, see?
But I knew what I was looking for. I just didn't know how to put it down into
But what if you don't know what you're looking for?
But again, it's not any different than searching the websites, Google and
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm just saying that I asked it, I said, how can I use these HTML tags to create this product? When you try to do it with W3 schools, to learn these HTML tags, they give you a little bit, but it's not enough to detail what you're looking for until you go through and you try to piece it all together. But I put into ChatGPT what I was looking for. Did the code work?
But
it could have, I don't know.
You're using critical thinking.
Right.
And good for you that you do it. But you are one out of how many people? The rest of the people would say, why am I wasting 3 hours of my day when I could be out here in the sunshine cruising down the lake drinking a beer? Let that thing do it. And that's the problem. The bulk of the people are going to be.
And I guess maybe that's the point I'm missing, is that the bulk of people are going to do it. I have been raised differently. That is not my work ethic.
But if it's easier, you do it. I'm that guy.
Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm more for consolidating time, because in the day-to-day realm of things, I'm not saying that I'm got time locked down everywhere, but there's things that I have to accomplish, and so if I can make my job easier, I will.
So you're going for easy.
Well, yeah, so I can get more stuff done.
Here, I thought this was going to be controversial between you and me, but more and more, I think you're coming to my side. You're starting to understand.
I'm not saying that I'm going to let ChatGPT or Copilot or any of those other ones do all my work. I will use it as a tool.
Very good. Very good. See, we're making progress, right? Now, here's the thing. Even in healthcare, now this one ought to scare us all.
I was going to say, this one's a little bit scarier.
Now I'm married to a nurse. She's been a nurse 51 years, all right? Boy, you have this thing called human empathy. Now, any of you that are married to a healthcare provider, you know how this works. If it's a patient, what can we do to help them and all this and everything. If it's a member of your own family, rub some dirt on it. You'll be all right. You'll live, right? Is that the truth? Yeah, you're not going to bleed to death. The line I love best is, I deal with sicker people than you all day.
I was going to say, I think it comes down to the bedside manner.
Well, that's right.
They know they can get away with it with you.
Well, here's my concern, is that AI is going to lose that empathy part. I mean, it's just going to analyze it and say, here's what's wrong with you. Do this or die, period.
Well,
that's what it's going to be, right? And so you're talking radiologists, pathologists, general practitioners, all of them are facing this AI doing the analysis, okay?
Right.
Most of you go to your doctor now, rather than him having, writing things down, he's got a tablet and he's checking things off as he's going, and then all that gets fed into a database. But basically what it does from there is it's going to get to the point where you can enter all the information, blood pressure, blood work, all of that and everything, and this thing's going to analyze it and come back and say, yeah, you've got, whatever. This is what's wrong with it. You've got the plague, right? And then here's the prescription for what you need to fix it, all right? Now, again, do we really want that, like you said, it's data in, data out. Do we really want that critter deciding, what's going on here? Especially if, there's not a doctor sitting there looking at you and say, man, you look terrible, right? I mean, computer doesn't know that, and like, he's sitting here, he got in here, he must be okay, right? Now, again, all of this infrastructure, you know, human labor built technologies and everything, but now AI is going to replace a lot of this. It's going to come a point where you're going to go in the doctor's office and they're going to say, sit in this chair, and a thing's going to slap a cuff on you, and another thing's going to turn around and drain a little blood out of you. Pray to God it stops when it's supposed to, right? You know, I mean, think about it. And then, you know, it'll send a note off to the doctor and say, well, this is what was wrong with him, and I gave him this, and sent him out the door.
They're making house visits again.
Yes, you know, well, and there's another thing. You'll be able to do it from home.
But you can.
Yes.
You can do virtual MD.
That scares the living daylights out of me, right?
I agree.
I know.
I agree.
Virtual, right? Now, here's the problem. AI's capabilities extend beyond merely managing its own data. All of a sudden now, it's being taught how to recreate, reinvent, and improve different devices. It's doing it on its own. We give all the information to it, and it's saying, well, this is archaic. We ought to do it this way, right? Then, imagine an AI system having the capability of detecting and fixing its own faults. You know, don't you just love it when they said, you turn your computer on in the morning and it says, Windows did an upgrade while you were sleeping. And you're like, oh, no. You know dang it's not going to work, right? You know, but here it is. It'll be able to fix itself. It'll diagnose problems before they even hit. Now, the argument that it's going to create new jobs, past technologies have, it rests on the flawed assumption that AI will simply extend our human capabilities. It's going to be able to do things and think ahead. It's going to be much smarter than Mark in fixing IT problems, right? Yes, I know. And, you know, when that happens, Mark, you can come down and drink coffee at the Harbor Light with me, all right? Now, when AI can analyze, reason, learn, and even generate solutions at a greater speed than Mark, then why am I spending all this money keeping Mark around here, right? So,
who's going to run that wire?
Yes, you see where this is headed, right? Now, reports indicate that there's a widening gap between the skills that graduates possess coming out of college,
Actually,
right?
What is it that Web Junction said? That
and employers' needs.
34% of students in the Midwest do not have the skills to
go into the field?
Go into the field.
Yeah.
34%.
Right. And so there you have it, you know. And so, you know, it comes down to, you hit on it very early. What are we going to teach these kids in school? As this is advancing, you know, it's kind of like what we did with the trades. We kind of abandoned it and everybody got a business degree. And now, as we move into AI, the schools are going to have to keep pace with this.
Well, and that's the thing, is everybody's going to have to keep pace with it. But again, and like I said, even from the time that I graduated high school in '99 and my kids got into high school or middle school, or even past 5th grade, do you have any idea what they're being taught?
No. Till we had COVID, we had no idea.
Do you know if they're reading anything on history?
No.
The English I knew because I had to get the books for my daughter.
Right.
But she was in an advanced English class.
Right.
So other than that, they don't come home with anything.
No.
You know, like I said, I remember being in middle school and high school, coming home with textbooks.
And
the
again,
backpack was full.
Who is deciding what they learn? That's the other issue, right? Now, think about this. If this continues on in this light, and we start getting rid of Marx and everybody else, you know, what are all these people going to do? You know, life is wonderful, but I don't have any money, you know, because these machines have done all this. And now this is what kills me. You sit there, and we're talking about this today, and being a history professor, I had to go back and say, well, this can't be the first time this happened. And so I want to share a quick little story about some people they called the Luddites, all right? Now, the Luddites, they were proven wrong because their bosses purchased machines that still required human minds, okay? The Luddites were these people that were working on the looms in England, all right? And they were mad as all get out when they brought in this technology. You know, I mean, they are fit to be tied. And it's a blanket term. A Luddite is a blanket term even used today that describes people who dislike new technology. Yes, I'm going to get a T-shirt. Luddite.
Already ordered.
Yes.
AI ordered it for you.
Thank you. Yes, AI probably did.
It'll be in your mailbox tomorrow.
Thank you. I may get a Luddite hat while I'm at it. You know?
Well, I think you'd already thought of that.
That's right. Now, here's the thing. These people are mad because they're losing their jobs. And basically what happened, most of them were trained artisans when they came in. Nobody knew how to do this stuff. They were really good at their craft, okay? And they feared that these machines would take away their jobs, all right? Now, when the economic pressures of the Napoleonic Wars come along, it made cheap competition for textiles even more important. And more of these mechanized looms and machines showed up. And so these people are losing their jobs to these machines, all right? They said it wouldn't happen, but it did.
Right.
Just like today, right? Now, here's what I found fascinating. Basically, like I say, they called themselves Luddites, and I thought, what's a Luddite? And they said it was after Ned Ludd. That's their leader, Ned Ludd, L-U-D-D. And supposedly he was a young apprentice who was rumored to have wrecked a textile machine, took a hammer to it, in 1779. This is how long ago we're talking about. Now, as I did a little more research, I found out there is no evidence that Ned Ludd ever lived, that he existed, all right? When they asked people about him, and they should have known then, they said, he's like Robin Hood, he lives in Sherwood Forest. Serious, that's where they said he was. He's holed up in Sherwood Forest, all right? But he eventually becomes the mythical leader of the Luddites, all right? And the protesters claim that Ned would come into town and say, okay, let's attack this factory today and let's attack this one tomorrow. And these guys are going around literally smashing the machines in these textile mills throughout England. So the Luddites were an actual movement, okay? Now, you know, where were they when I needed them, right? Maybe that's what I should have done when we were at the state. We should have all got hammers and beat the living daylights out of that glowing thing on our desk,
Do you think it would have stopped progress?
Yes. You know.
You're okay.
Well, it was a step in the right direction at least,
I'll
right?
let you
But
keep your fantasy.
no, we sat there and said, okay, boss, whatever you say, we'll use this thing, right? Now, basically what happened is England is not going to sit idly by and watch all of their textile industry go into the tank. And so what they did is they issued a law that if you take a hammer or do anything to sabotage a textile machine, it is punishable by death. Death.
It's a little harsh.
Yes, and several people were executed. Okay, they hung them from a post outside the factory. Said, don't even think about messing with your machine today. And it worked. They said, okay, more machines, no problem, all right? Now, basically, 1813, the Luddite resistance had all but vanished. You know, you only got to hang so many people, and they're like,
I would rather be shipped to Australia.
Well, yeah, that was the other thing. They could ship you to Australia.
I would rather that. Well, except for the spiders. No, never mind.
But can you imagine? You know, there you are. They let you off the boat in Australia and say, hey, mate, what you here for? Well, I broke a machine.
Well, you know, at that time, though, it was English controlled, so
well, yeah.
That was what they were using it for, is to ship prisoners over there. So.
There you had it, right? So, you know, basically, contrary to popular belief, the original Luddites, they weren't so much anti-technology as they were technologically incompetent and didn't want to lose their jobs. That's what it came down to, all right? And so, you know, they saw it as a threat to their way of life,
right.
Okay? Now, today, this distinction sometimes is lost, okay? Being a Luddite often indicates, basically, technological incompetence. Yes, I am somewhat incompetent, but I know enough to know that, you know,
I wasn't going to say anything.
I know, but hey, you know, I got here today. I was able to get the technology in the car to light up, I was able to light up
Did
my
it drive you
computer
in here
this morning.
itself, or did you have to actually do the steering and the braking?
I took it away from it. Yes, I turned that thing off.
You steered it
yes,
away,
you know, I'm not going to let that thing steer me down the highway or tell me how far to be from the car in front of me.
That's my biggest fear right there.
Yes, so basically, you know, you have this situation where you have people who are saying cryptocurrency and whatever the world of Venmo is and all this, you know. I mean, well, can't you just Venmo that? Probably could if I knew what that was, right? You know, so here you are. You know, you find yourself in these situations. Now, here's an interesting note. I'm not alone being a Luddite. In December of 2015, Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates were jointly nominated for the Luddite Award. Yes. And their sin is they were raising concerns over the potential dangers of artificial intelligence. Huh? Luddites, yes. So I'm in good company.
You're in good company.
Now, the irony of 3 prominent scientists and entrepreneurs being labeled as Luddites underlines the disconnect between the term's original meaning and its more modern use as a description of anybody that doesn't understand technology. They're saying, we don't know where this is going, okay? Now, in the age of ChatGPT, gene editing, and other technologies, perhaps we all need to channel the spirit of Ned Ludd and slow down a little bit and look at this and say, what do we really want to do with this? Now, believe it or not, there is a group in New York, if any of you are interested in joining, called the Neo-Luddites. Yes. Now, I'd struggle a little bit being part of that group. In 1990, a psychologist by the name of Chellis Glendenning, she published an essay titled Notes Towards a Neo-Luddite Manifesto. She wrote a manifesto.
I need AI to dumb that down for me.
There you go. Yes, well, I'll dumb it down for you.
All right.
All right? Here
Perfect.
In it, she recognized the nature of the early Luddite movement and related it to a growing disconnect between societal values and technological innovations, okay? She wrote, like the early Luddites, we too are desperate people seeking to protect the livelihoods, communities, and families we love, which lie on the verge of destruction, okay? Now, on one hand, entrepreneurs and others who advocate for a more measured approach basically are frequently labeled as Neo-Luddites, okay? So I'd probably be a Neo-Luddite, all right? But these Neo-Luddites, I'm not real sure I can handle how this works because they use flip phones still. They don't use anything with a screen on it.
Actually, you know, flip phones would be almost a little bit better going back because you can't break the screen.
And, you know, I don't understand it. Isn't that technology? A flip phone?
It is.
Yes, well, you know, but I don't know any of them.
But
so,
again,
yeah.
so are smoke signals.
Yeah, smoke signals didn't work, right? Now, basically what happens here is that these people are saying that these screens are an abomination and that it seems to them that it drains mental health if you spend all day on these things. And some of the people you know that spend all day on Facebook or whatever, you got to wonder sometimes.
It can be depressing depending on what you're searching.
Right. So, you know, there it is. I hope I've piqued your interest today. Yes, I am a Luddite. I'm welcome to any of you are welcome to join me in my.
Again, that shirt's in the mail.
Yes, exactly. But again, I think the big message here is that everybody needs to step back and look at how the technology is going to be used. You know, and we've gone through tremendous changes. My great-grandmother, I mean, she went to the 1904 World's Fair.
Well, just look at your
on
mom.
a horse and buggy. My mom's 102.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Look at your mom.
Look at
everything that she has.
The changes she's gone through to indoor plumbing and heating and air conditioning and phones and all that. Yeah, you know, and yet she's still thriving, you know, so it hadn't killed her yet and it hadn't got me yet. But again, I think people need to step back and look at where we're headed with all of this.
I agree.
And that's why when Mark brings me these things for $30,000, I'm like, Mark, do we really need this, right? So there you have it.
We do.
Yeah.
Cheap at twice the price.
That's right. Yeah, we need two. Yeah, he's already telling me this isn't going to do it. Yeah. Okay.
One's not going to do it. We need two.
That's
and
right.
Probably a third one as a backup,
That's
right?
That's right.
We'll see. There we go. All right. So you've given us quite a bit to think about on AI, how it's used, and we've had the conversation of how do we progress from here and teaching people to use their brains, and especially with students. So we have actually purchased a subscription to World Book Online. So it's important to double check those facts, and that's where World Book Online can come into play. Starting in September, it will be available to students and parents. It is a trusted source where kids can verify
Yay.
information, explore accurate articles, and build strong research skills. Whether it's science, history, current events, World Book helps young learners confirm what AI says and learn even more along the way. So World Book for Kids is for ages 6 to 10. With that one, it's easy to read articles. It's not too over their head. It's built just for them, engaging videos, games, and activities that make learning fun and interactive. For the World Book student, that's for those middle grade kiddos. That's for ages 10 to 14. And it provides a little bit more in-depth articles, biographies, and research tools to support local school projects and independent learning. And then for the advanced, that is for ages 14 and up. So that's going to be your high school students and beyond. And that version has encyclopedia entries. It has citation sources. It has primary source documents. It has advanced search tools. And then the great thing about this, whether you're a homeschool parent or not, these three avenues have lesson plans. Make sure your child is reaching state standards, and just activities that they can do, from science experiments to other things, crafting-wise, that are there available for that. So no matter age or grade level, we should have something that...
As a show of hands, how many of my audience had a World Book encyclopedia when they were growing up? Every one of them. See, isn't that funny?
It is.
It goes full circle. And the beautiful thing about this is you can pull it right up there in your hand. It's not the length of this table, and some guy came and knocked on your door and said, I'm going to educate your children. Yeah, this is great. I mean, it really is a tremendous resource.
Yes,
it really is.
It is. It is. So then to kind of jump into our programs that are going to be happening at our libraries, on September 10th at the Osage Beach Library, they will be doing a leaf painting craft. However, before that, they will be learning about Missouri native leaves and then use those leaves to make a beautiful painting that they can take home with them. So, and that's for ages 6 to 11.
Great.
And then our ever popular Nerf battle for the teens happens here at Camdenton Library on September 12th at 6 p.m.
You gotta love it.
See, there's no AI involved in that.
We do that every year at Christmas. We get the Nerf guns out, and it's something really. I don't know what it is. It's very relaxing to get.
I was going to stay stress relieving.
Yeah, shoot my 72-year-old sister with the back of the head with a Nerf gun.
No headshots.
Yes, well.
No headshots.
Yeah.
Nothing above the head.
There's not a lot of rules when you're twins.
Or above the, oh, okay. I feel sorry for your mother. But teens do need to sign up for this, and there is the calendar link that we will have for that.
Right.
And then for adults at the Osage Beach Library on September 15th, which is a Monday, at 6:30 p.m., we will have bingo for books. So, yes, you can come in and play bingo. If you win, you get a book.
Nice.
Yeah, so, and again, that's just for adults only. So.
Cool.
Then on September 22nd, again, this one's for kids. This is for ages 6 to 11 again, and they love this. We used to do this for one of our STEAM projects, is building catapults out of spoons and I call them tongue dispersers, but the craft sticks and rubber bands, and then they get to lob things across the building with their with their catapults.
Nice.
Yeah. So those are always fun. We always used to use, when we did it for the STEAM project, we always used mini marshmallows.
Nice.
So you could have a snack and launch them.
Why does it get a feeling we're going to be picking up marshmallows for a long time?
It'll go with the darts. That is it for what I've got. We kind of take a break after summer reading programs, so our programming is a little light after that. But we are coming back strong coming October and throughout the rest of the year. So, yeah.
Great. Well, folks, we can't thank you enough for joining us. And hopefully we gave you a lot to think about here.
Right.
You know, please visit your libraries. We've got 6 locations, lots of great people there to help you, lots of technology available with things like 3D printers and things that we can do. Please stop by and see us. If you have a group you'd like to have us come and talk to, give us a shout here at the library.
For sure.
And again, thank you all very much for being here.
Before we end,
yes.
What was our next topic for next month? Are we going with the transportation or?
Yes, we're going to talk about the history of transportation as long as we're talking technology, specifically here in the United States, and I think you're going to find it pretty interesting.
All I know is my car does not like the chuck holes around 54.
We're going to be a little more primitive than that when we start.
Woo!
All right?
It's really not going to like them.
No, not at all. I'm going to buy you a horse, my friend.
All right,
There
so I
you
can
go.
have 2 Mustangs.
There you go. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.